start stream. We'll make sure we're all online and all okay, good to go on my end. You'll see a bit of, if you're watching this on YouTube, we could be live already. This is all very much new to me. And am I going to see myself? Yeah, we're live. It looks like we're live. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We'll start the podcast officially now. I think we're all good to go. Everything's good on my end anyway. And yeah, right, let's get going. So, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of Live Chat with Paul Carroll. We're looking back on the quarter-final weekend in the Tipperary County Hurling Championships. As always, we'll be looking back on the quarter-finals that we've just had, and then we'll be looking ahead to what's just after happening in the last kind of hour or so, and that is the semi-final draws. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, I'll pull up the draws live in front of us. But thanks for tuning in. As always, we're going to run down through all the quarterfinals and relegation semi-finals, all the games that happened in the last over the weekend in Tipperary Club Hurling, and then we're looking back on the games and we're going to react to the draws. So here is the semi-final draws that have just happened in the last half an hour or so. I'll have a quick look at the chat. How do I do this now? Yeah, okay, so we're all good to go. And right, let's get back to it. So let's see the quarter-final, semi-final draw in the Senior Championship. Thurles Sarsfields against Loughmore Kilruane, Toomevara versus Kilruane. We're going to look back on all these games. We'll start with Kilruane because what a result that was against Kilruane. Premier Intermediate semi-finals then Cashel Kincormacs against Upper Church Drumban, Carrick Swan against Gartnahoe Glengool in the other one, and then the Intermediate Hurling Championship, Golden Kilfeacle against Ballingarry and Moneygall against Capawhite. I also have some notes to write down. The ticket prices is something I want to bring up as well as we get into this week's podcast. So we are live, so if you're watching on YouTube, fire away with comments or anything like that you want to get in. I'll try to get into them again. This is new to me, this live stream and stuff, so I probably won't be able to find the comments too easily unless I drag them. If I drag them over here, what do you see now? So are you seeing what I see on the screen? Sorry, now this is all very much new to me now, but yeah, I think, yeah, that's okay. So right, I can see the chat there now if you did want to leave your comments, and we can react and reply as we go on in this week's podcast. But anyway, let's get into it now. What a quarter-final weekend. Loads of games. I've notes written down. I've watched back as much of the games as possible. I was doing live commentary on the four senior quarterfinals, so we'll get to all those games. I'll give you my thoughts, what I picked up from watching some of the games, and we'll go from there. So we've about 18 games to get through, so we'll try and power on and waste little to no more time going through these games. So we will start in the Senior Championship. The first of the quarterfinals was on Saturday in Thurles. Kilruane 221 to Kildangan's 316. This was incredible. Kilruane springing a huge upset. We spoke about it in the podcast previewing the quarterfinal action. Just how I think Kildangan's odds were 1-8 when we looked at it, and you know it's a hard game to get your head around because they were playing so well. They were cruising pretty much at half-time, up by 8 points, playing really well, but you still felt like there's another few gears in Kildangan if they need them. And yeah, what was it at half-time? I think I have it down there. It was 213 to 11 off the top of my head. I'm not sure if I have it written down in front of me, but it was 213 to 11 points. And I might just pull up my notes here that I have from the game as well. So these are the notes I would have had while I was commentating on the game, and I have them down in front of me. So yeah, 213 to 11 points at halftime. Kildangan were cruising, playing really well, playing very comfortable and that sort of way. Conor Byrne got a goal early on, and Billy Seymour got a really nice goal, a kind of a breakthrough down the middle. A ham pass popped off to Billy Seymour and it bounced up in front of him, pulled on it first time into the back of the net. Real nice finish from Billy Seymour. And yeah, they were motoring well. Andy Lucknan got a nice score early on. Conor Byrne had 1-2. Shane Gleeson got a score. Decky McGrath, Ty Gallagher. Kildangan going really well. Kilruane you kind of felt like they were off it. They didn't get to the pitch of the game. They were kind of being outclassed. But then just half-time came, down by 8 points, and 5 minutes into the second half, they made 2 half-time substitutions, Kilruane. They brought on Joe Egan for Niall Heffernan, and they brought on Kyle Shelley. He came onto the field as well, and that was for Kieran Morris. Kieran Morris off injured at half-time. He had 3 points in the first half. Seemed to be some sort of hamstring injury, so you know, one of their key forwards gone off at half time, down by 8 points, county quarter final, hadn't been in one since 1991. Backs to the wall, very young team against the experienced county champions. It only looked like it was going to go one way, but the first few minutes of the second half, Moycarkey just came flying out of the blocks and got a bit of a lucky goal. It was Tom Ryan, the cornerback, had come up between the 65s out on the sideline, hit in just a speculative effort into the edge of the box, and Kyle Shelley went up to bat down on it. Don't think he got a connection on it, just went straight into the back of the net. James Quigley and Barry Hogan. It was a real awkward one for Barry Hogan because it's kind of coming across the face of the goals. It's landing in that dangerous area right in the edge of the square, and you have James Quigley and Kyle Shelley going up for the ball as well. So a tricky one for Barry Hogan. Finds its way into the back of the net. Kieran Cummins got a score. Joe Maher, these are players we're going to talk about. Unbelievable games. David Costigan off the bench. But at that point in the game, it was 1-3 without reply for Moycarkey Burris. They brought it back to a point. Kildangan didn't score for the first 12 minutes of the second half. And you're kind of wondering, geez, what's going on here? Next thing, ball goes down. It falls to, just have it down in front of me, it was Brian Malachny who got the goal. It was Shane Gleeson. High ball comes in. It breaks favourably for Shane Gleeson and Brian Malachny just outside the 21 at the town end side of Semple Stadium. And Shane Gleeson gets it, pops it off to Brian Malachny, and he buries it into the back of the net. But before that, Ty Galler had a shot on goal. Brilliant save by Rhys Shelley in the goals, and Brian Malachny actually missed a sitter. He somehow found himself in acres of space. This is about 7 or 8 minutes into the second half after Moycarkey had found that kind of purple patch, and the ball breaks into Brian Malachny on the 14, unmarked, kind of back to goals, and he turns, hits it low and just past the post. It was kind of a sitter for Brian Malachny, so incredible that it didn't go into the back of the net. But those were the kind of things that just started to go Moycarkey's way. Kildangan started to hit a few kind of wides that wasn't like them. But with all that said, that Brian Malachny goal that he eventually got into the back of the net, and all of a sudden a point from was it Decky McGrath who got the next score, Sean Hayes. It was a poor puck out from Rhys Shelley straight to Kildangan man out around the 65, and it ended up over the bar. So just like that, the lead was kind of back out to 5 or 6, and you were saying, right, Kildangan are going to push on now in the last 10 minutes and see this through. But that's just not how this Moycarkey team was rolling. And Kildangan had chances. Rhys Shelley made another big save. This time it was from a Brian Malachny low effort that Rhys Shelley saved. And Kildangan had so many chances that they were so dumbfounded on the full-time whistle, and you can see why, because even now I don't know how Kildangan didn't win this game with the wides. And Billy Seymour, missed a couple of frees that he'd never missed. The one on the 45 springs to mind, just central position. Missed a more difficult one out by the sideline, but he completely just, the sliotar just skidded off his hurley. It was kind of mist and rain at the time and the wet conditions, but yeah, Moycarkey just started ploughing away point by point. Kieran Cummins in midfield was exceptional. He got 8 points. He got the last point of the game before Max Hackett's goal. Joe Maher, wing forward, big, kind of physical, little bit unorthodox, but really effective. He got 5 points. David Costigan off the bench was a tip minor last year. He was really impressive. He got 2 points as well. And Stephen Walsh, the wing back or the cornerback, he got 3 points from cornerback, and I thought his moment, I thought it should have been the goal. I think was there 3 points in it at this stage. It was David Costigan actually out in the corner flag, drills the ball across the face of the goals. David Sweeney gets a touch on it, but it kind of pops down behind him, and Stephen Walsh is there and flicks it from close range. You're thinking, this is in the back of the net, it has to be, and it somehow goes over the crossbar, and that was in injury time, and you're thinking, there it goes. That was the chance for Moycarkey Burris. But no, they kept ploughing away. And a big moment as well was Paul Flynn, a second yellow card on 56 minutes. But even at that stage of the game, you were thinking, he'll be back for the next day. It's only 2 yellows. That's kind of how it felt. But God, it proved to be costly for a finish. But it all came down. Final ball over the bar, and you're looking at a long ball in. I can't remember who was it. Joe Maher who played it in. Long ball in to the edge of the 21. Max Hackett and David Sweeney are 1-on-1. Max Hackett just rises off the ground into the clouds, comes down with the ball, runs diagonally across the edge of the 14 and just rifles it into the top of the net with kind of 2 men on him at that stage. I don't know how he got the strike away without getting hooked. it was great defending from David Sweeney in terms of he made him go out to the side and he done all he could, and he had given away a free. Advantage was being played. I've seen people giving out about Max Hackett's steps and things like that, and that's probably fair enough if you go back and count the steps, but one thing I always like looking at is the reaction of the players, and I don't think any of the Kildangan players were saying steps or anything like that at the time, because at the time it didn't feel like steps, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you're there watching a game and you see a lad catch a ball and he runs off and he's kind of been fouled and the ref lets play on, and then he goes into the motion of striking, it doesn't feel like steps. But then you watch it back and you're like, okay, he's taken 10, 12 steps or whatever it was for a finish. But look, my Carkey Burris won't mind. It's into the back of the net. The puck out went long then from Barry Hogan, and it was won by, was it Joe Dorn who came onto the field, got the last touch of the ball, and he came out with it, and Alan Tierney blew the full-time whistle. But it was just shocking, really, in terms of, still hard to fathom that Kildangan lost that game with all the goal chances they had and things like that. But that's just this Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship. Look, I really didn't see that coming whatsoever. But fair play to my Carkey Burris. They're into a first quarter-final since first semi-final now since 1984. And they won it in 1984. That's the last time they won it 40 years ago. So just incredible. It was the outpouring of my Carkey Burris parish from the stands down onto the field on full time. It was like a county final. It was unreal to see. But devastating loss for Kildangan. I mentioned it on commentary about how many times have we seen this Kildangan team just lay a real sucker punch on a team. Their famous 2020 win with Brian Malachney springs to mind in terms of last minute goals, and they've done it before in this year's North Championship. Brian Malachney again combined well with Billy Seymour for a goal late on, and they've oftentimes produced the goods late on, this Kildangan team. But this time it went against them, and I'd say they really will be kicking themselves now, because they're the big favourites going down there, the reigning county champions. But it's just so hard to defend that Dan Breen Cup. It hasn't been defended since Thurles done their 4 in a row back in 2017. We've had a different champion, no back-to-back winners since then. And yeah, it was a magical kind of moment down in my Carkey Burris, but devastating for the Kildangan lads walking off the field, but pure jubilation. It was pure ecstasy on one hand, pure dejection on the other for the two teams. But that sport, and it was just unreal to be down there, but that was just such a shocking moment. It's hard to explain, but my Carkey go marching on 221 to 316, and their opponents now will be Toomevara, and I'd say everyone in Toomale Burris or wherever listening to the draw was delighted to get Toomevara, and I'd say everyone in Toomevara were delighted to get my Carkey Burris, just the way I'm sure that those were the teams they would have wanted to be playing. No disrespect to either of them, but I'd imagine everyone in my Carkey would have said, oh, if we got Toom, that's who we'd like. And if you asked anyone in Toom, I'd imagine they would have been hoping to get my Carkey Burris. But that's how it goes, and they will be meeting each other now in the semi-final in 2 weeks' time. But how did Toomevara get there? Well, they bet JK Brackens 26 points to 21. This followed on from that my Carkey miracle in Semple Stadium, and it was never going to get to the pitch of the excitement we had just seen. It was a real flat start to this game. It was 12 points to 10 to Toom at half time. I'll get my notes for this one. And as I have on the screen there, Darren McCarthy, 11 points, was the main man for Toomevara. But this was a game, if you're planning on sitting down during the week and maybe watching back some of the games, I don't know. This game, it didn't really capture my imagination. But I was commentating back to back on the game, so you're nearly on a come down after witnessing just the chaotic scenes of the Mike Harkey win. And this game was real tactical, sweepers on each side. Paddy Cadell on one side, I think was it Barry O'Connell maybe on the other side, or Josh McCarthy on the other side for Toomevara sweep. And it was in that kind of pattern of short puck out, playing the ball out. Like JK Brackens got turned over so much in that middle third. Toom worked really hard, in fairness to them. Jack Delaney, Mark McCarthy made a lung busting effort to get a hook in at one stage, but it was a real kind of attritional game, a real battle, loads of physicality. Like Paddy Cadell, if you were to do like rugby stats or something like that with meters gained and things like that, like he took that ball into contact every time he gets it, pops it off and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't my type of game in terms of entertainment wise, but some really impressive performances. I've Jamie Ormond written down there. He got 5 points from play. He was really, really good. Andrew Ormond got 3 points. There was a really good battle between Andrew Ormond and Andrew Ryan in there for a lot of the game. But Andrew Ryan actually had to go off fairly early in the second half. Not sure if he was injured, but you'd have to imagine if Andrew Ryan is going off for Toomevara that he is injured. But Josh Powell came on, one of the young under-19 players, and he did fairly well when he came on. But yeah, 26 points to 21. It was back to a level game there with a couple of minutes to go, and Darren McCarthy got kind of a long-range point on his own 65. He was nailing the frees all day. He's just such a threat. He was winning frees as well. I mention it every podcast, just his street smartness and his ability to get his body between him and the man, or between the ball and the man when it's coming in. And he's able to draw frees and things like that. And he's just been so good since he's gone senior for this Toomevara team. 11 points for him. Adam Hall was a threat throughout. He got 2 points. But I thought Conor O'Mara, he came on 2 points from play as a substitute late on. And that was big for Toomevara. They pushed on. I'd like to say more about this game, but it just didn't really do it for me. And that, as I said, lend in hand to the Mike Harkey win and just the excitement of that. This was a real come down, but it's a young JK Brackens team. Paddy Cadell is the leader of that team, and he's still fairly young. The likes of Ned Delaney, Jamie Ormond, Michael Cahill as well. They all had their moments there, and there's a Ned Walsh, he came on as well. These are all very young players, all under 19 this year. So it's still an exciting time for JK Brackens. They were in the relegation final last year and into a quarter final this year. So and 2 years ago they were in a quarter final as well. So they'll be hoping next year they're not back into a relegation final to continue that pattern. But new manager Shane Keegan, they play to this system. You'd like to see them add maybe a bit of variety to it. Now they did start maybe abandoning the short passing towards the end, and they hit a few aimless balls in. So if they could just add that element to their game in terms of in the last few minutes down a few points, that sort of thing, maybe just to add a bit of variety. But yeah, look, Paddy Cadell has had a really good year for JK Brackens, and it's really good from a Tipperary point of view to see Paddy Cadell kind of back fit and flying for JK Brackens. So to move on from that game, yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. 26 points to 21, real strong finish for Toomevara. They go marching on to the semi-finals. As we said, they'll play Mike Harkey Borough. So we'll go to the Sunday games then in Semple Stadium. Loughmore Castleiney 222, Kilruane McDonough's 119. And yeah, the first note I have down, it was an even enough first half, 11 points apiece. Real fast-paced start to the game. I think it was about 5 points each after about 10 minutes. Real good game, entertaining watch. No massive chances really. Paudie Williams did produce a really big save from John McGrath. It was kind of like nearly a speculative effort. He shot out in the side inside the 14. Really good arrowed shot, and good diving save, brilliant diving save from Paudie Williams. If you haven't seen it. And Keane Kelly had a bit of a goal chance as well, kind of broke through. I think it was Keane Kelly. He was in the red helmet, so I'm nearly sure it was him breaking through and kind of bounced it off the ground, but he's kind of off balance as he was striking it just on the 21. It was saved by Aidan McGrath out for a 65. There was a great battle going on between Jerry Cahill and Lorcan Egan. Jerry Cahill was operating in that full forward line, and Kilruane were really trying to target him. And I'll get my notes for this one actually. Have we him here? Or the script I had in front of me, or not script, but the team sheets I had in front of me during the match. Looking at these, that's not that game. That is the Nenagh game. That is this one, right? So, yeah, 11 points apiece at halftime. Really entertaining game. We Dara Peters and Mark O'Neill starting for Kilruane McDonagh. So good to see Dara Peters back. His brother Jack Peters come on as well in the second half. Liam Tracy did return from that hand injury for Loughmore Castleiney, so he'd be a good shove on for them now heading into the quarterfinals of the football next weekend if they want to use him there, and then of course the semi-finals in 2 weeks time. But in general, yeah, 11 points apiece at half time. Willie Cleary got the big goal for Kilruane early in the second half. Kind of I can't remember who broke through, but the ball popped up for Willie Cleary. He was in one-on-one on the 14 and he just nice batted it past the goalkeeper. Nothing really Aidan McGrath could do there. So Kilruane were up by 4 points at that stage, but then they looked to be really pushing on. That was maybe 7 or 8 minutes into the second half, but then they really just it's the story of this game was the 2 goals Loughmore got. I think they just came in real quick succession, and they were real soft goals for Kilruane MacDonagh's to be conceding. One of them was just Paudie Williams, a loose puck out, trying to get it to a wing back, I think, and he's just hit it straight into the hands of Liam McGrath. Liam McGrath just flicked it in forward to Kieran McCormack, who had just come onto the field, and he buried it low. And that got Loughmore right back into it. I think that might have levelled the game. And then a few moments later, a free is given away around the 45. There's kind of mountain going on between the Kilruane players and the referee, so it's brought forward inside the 45. John McGrath hits it high, way high off the upright, going for a point. It bounces out towards the corner flag. Owen Hogan is running out to it. All the experience in the world. He just tried to play this low ball infield, and didn't get enough on it. It got held up, it got flicked up by Liam McGrath, and he's in one-on-one, and it's into the back of the net. And just like that, it was 2 goals for Loughmore Castellini. And from then on, it was kind of point for a period there, and then Loughmore finished really strong. The likes of Ed Connolly got a few points late on. Kieran Connolly got 2 points in the game. Looking at the other scores, John McGrath with 10, Kieran McCormack with 1-1, Liam McGrath with 1-1, Tommy Maher and Tomas McGrath with a point each. Noel McGrath got a point straight from the throw-in in the first half, and he kind of dropped back for the rest of the game there. But it really came down to that just kind of 2-minute spell where Kilruane really shot themselves in the foot now, I thought. But that's just the way it went. Elsewhere for Kilruane, Aaron Morgan got 2 points, Jory Cahill got 2, Keane O'Kelly and Niall O'Mara with a point each, Thomas Cleary with a point, Keane Darcy with 3 points. Willie Cleary finished up with 1-9, so he missed maybe 1 free I could remember, but he was fairly accurate as always from then on. But yeah, I think story of the game there is just those 2 goals conceded by Loughmore Castellini. They'll be kicking themselves for sure after that. So we'll move on now to the last game. This was Thurles Sarsfields, the last senior quarter final. Thurles Sarsfields 29 points to Nenagh Rogues 19, and this game, I don't know, this game was very open first half, extremely open. There was so much shooting going on, 15 points to 11 at half time to Thurles, and I felt Thurles were kind of playing at ease at stages. Nenagh were getting their scores as well. The first half, I think Sam O'Farrell had 3 points in the first half. Tommy Heffernan had 4. Jake Morris did start well. He got 2 points. But Thurles just, like Stephen Cahill there in midfield, 5 points for him. Paddy Creedon with 2. Liam McCormack in the full forward line. Young, real nippy, real quick forward. Played with their second team for much of this year and all of last year, and he's real electric. He's a real live wire. Works so hard in around every ball and well able to take a score as well. He got 4 points, and he kind of ran himself ragged for a finish. Owen Purcell in there with 4 points as well. So these are all from play, like 4 from Liam McCormack, 4 from Owen Purcell, 3 from Dara Stakelum, 5 from Stephen Cahill. But yeah, it was a strange game. Like, Nenagh were 9 points down at one stage in the second half, and it looked like it was going to be a complete blowout. But in fairness to Nenagh, they kept it going, and they kept it going and kept stringing away at points. And then next thing, Adam Healy comes onto the field and gets an all-important goal for Nenagh, and suddenly it was back to 3 points, and you're thinking, whoa, from being completely out of the game, here Nenagh can push on here now and get something. Thurles, though, just have such a strong bench. They were able to introduce Pa Burke onto the field. They also put on David Corbett, Shawnee Butler, Kieran Costello, Michael Purcell. Michael Purcell got a point. Pa Burke got 2 points. Straight away when he came on, he kind of got a score, hit a free over the bar as well. And Shawnee Butler the same. He got a point when he came on. So it was those substitutions that really done it for Thurles Sarsfields. They have a real strong bench. They've loads of experience there. And it proved like that they needed that, because it could have gone hairy, but they're just such the Thurles defence, the Mahers back there, Dennis Maher and Ronan Maher, really good throughout. Paul Maher was given the unenviable task of marking Jake Morris, and he done really well. Like, Jake Morris got 2 points, always looking like a threat, but it was kind of difficult for him being in there on Paul Maher at times with ball coming in and things like that. Josh Keller had a half goal chance for Nenagh at one stage. It was a ball that kind of deflected in around the square, and I think one of the Thurles players nearly left it for Paddy McCormack to come out and claim it, but it was just complete kind of confusion for only a split second, and Josh Keller came in and flicked it, but it was saved on the line and deflected out. That was Nenag's only real goal chance though. A positive for Nenagh is I thought Barry Heffernan just had a really good game. He was playing that kind of sweeper role, so what you were seeing an awful lot of the time for Nenagh was short puck outs going straight to Barry Heffernan, and he was working it up the field. Got himself a point as well. But a loss for Nenagh was Conor McCarthy, and it was a real innocuous one. I think, was it in the first half, now that I think of it? Yeah, it was in the first half. Just a real... There was a lot of loose ball in this game. Like Ronan Maher was cleaning up on one end of the field, and then it was Ronan Maher who hit a really loose ball straight to Conor McCarthy. No one near him. Bounced in front of him. He took it. Just took a step forward and fell to his knees and gave away a hand pass, and it just kind of looked strange. And then he stayed down, and it didn't look good now at all. And he's coming back from a knee injury there maybe 12 months ago, probably more than 12 months now, maybe 18 months or so, coming back from a knee injury, and you just hope it's not a reoccurrence of anything like that. Haven't heard anything since the game, but it looked really bad. He looked to be very upset walking off the field, and things like that never look good. We've a couple of comments coming in as well that I'll keep an eye on. River Power is my heart went out to Conor McCarthy. He was going so well, and that's the thing, he was going very well back there. He started the game really well. You felt he was getting back into his groove. Like I've had a knee injury myself, and nowhere near the level of players like Conor McCarthy and co. But it does take a couple of games and a lot of time to just mentally get your head around right and back to normal. And we saw that with Barry Heffernan, I thought, kind of last year with his first year coming back, whereas this year now he looks back to kind of full fitness. So Conor McCarthy, you felt, was slowly getting back to that stage, but unfortunately he's gone down with an injury there. So let's hope it's nothing too serious and it's a speedy recovery. But he was a big loss back there for Nenagh. But yeah, it was a loose game. You never felt really Nenagh kind of went for it. Now I thought Philip Hickey was a big loss because that kind of game for Philip Hickey is huge. That kind of the kind of player he is huge for Nenagh in terms of real physical, combative player, and he was out injured. But yeah, that's just how it went. It was a real strong finish from Thurles. Nenagh did get it back to 3, but I think Nenagh will be disappointed with just how they played. You kind of felt there was more in them. It just didn't happen. And I mentioned Paul Maher, River Power. What age is Paul Maher? Not sure, to be honest, what age Paul Maher is, but I feel every year we're talking about how good a cornerback he is. He's comfortable on the ball, a really good man marker. He's always given the job to pick up the best forward on the other team, and he's part of that formidable defence. Paul Maher, Dennis Maher, Stephen Maher, and especially Ronan back there. If you're chasing a game against those lads, it's it's not going to end well because they're just formidable back there. So Thurles go marching on back into a semi-final where they'll play Loughmore Castleiney, who they bet very handily in last year's semi-final, but Loughmore beat them in the mid-championship this year. So that's going to be a really interesting one to see. I'm really, as a neutral, I'm delighted with how these the semi-final draw has gone, just because I wanted to see Thurles and Loughmore battle it out in the semi-final, and then I wanted to see Toom and Mike Harkey, because it guarantees a bit of a novel final pairing. Because let's say it's Loughmore and Toom. When's the last time they met in a county final, if ever? If it's Loughmore and Mike Harkey, if it's Thurles and Toom, I think maybe 2008 was that Thurles and Toom's last win. Can't remember off the top of my head, but been a while since any of those teams have met, Mike Harkey and Toom, things like that. So it's going to be a novel county final pairing, whatever way the semi-finals go. But really looking forward to the semi-finals. So that's how the senior semi-finals gone. More comments coming in. What else do we have here? Why did Nenagh go away from the tactics used against Lura back to the crack they used against Holy Cross? Mind-boggling. So yeah, I suppose what River Power, good commenter there, is keeping us going. What he's referring to maybe is the directness of Nenah's play against Lura compared to maybe not so direct and not so down on top of the square as they had against Thurles. I suppose one thing is, against Thurles, if you're hitting long ball down to the edge of the square, I'd say Dennis Maher is down on his knees praying that the ball comes in like that. That's exactly the type of ball he wants as a fullback for Thurles. And then you've Ronan Maher sweeping as well. So, that is a difficult thing to do as well. Worth a try a couple of times, but they did push Paddy Murphy up the field and tried that a couple of times towards the end of the game, but it didn't go their way. But for Nenagh, they do have a lot of players on the right side of, let's say 30, or even, the likes of Jake, Sam O'Farrell, Mason Cawley, Ben West. These are all kind of young players. Conor Hennessy back there as well. Fleet McIntyre, in fairness to him, he came on for Conor McCarthy, and I thought he got on so much ball. He was very busy there, and he's been a good first-year player for Nenagh this year. And then, they have the tip minors that we saw this year to come as well, the likes of Jake Donnellan, Houlihan, Billy O'Brien, these lads. So, Nenagh are still a team growing, but they'll just be disappointed with how they performed, I think, yesterday in that semi-final. So, right, let's move on now to the relegation semi-finals. We Bursalee saving their bacon 2-19 against Lur's 1-18, and we'd Roscrea with a big 5-22 to 2-15 win over Temple-Derry. So this was a doubleheader in Nenagh on Saturday. For Bursalee, they had no Brendan Maher. He had an ankle injury, so he didn't feature in this game. Bursalee's goal came on the 18th minute by Paddy McCormack. That made it 1-9 to 3 points, playing with the breeze. It was a great catch and layoff by Eddie Ryan, and Paddy McCormack done the rest. Then he finished it. I think he was wearing a yellow helmet when I was watching it, and he's usually wearing the black helmet, so that kind of caught me off guard. But it was Paddy McCormack who got the goal. Laura did battle back well last 5 minutes of the first half. Michael Dolan got a few long-range frees down into the scoreboard end of Nenagh, but Bursalee were up 1-12 to 8 points at half-time, and the first 15 minutes of the second half had that kind of similar pattern. In there. Burris went up 116 to 10 points after 45 minutes, but a Keane Hogan goal on 49 minutes. It was a Bonner Maher, just ball into him, controls it, pops it off to Keane Hogan. He's running through down towards the clubhouse end in Nenagh, and he buries a real nice finish, and that made it 116 to 112. It was only 2 points in it on 54 minutes, so Lura were really reeling in Bursalee. They were down by 9 points after 45 minutes, and they reeled it back to 2 points on 54. But it was a James Devaney wonder goal. Like, if you haven't seen the goal, he picks it up between the 265s underneath the stand in Nenagh, and puts right out on the sideline, puts it down on the hurley, just takes off. I always remember when Bursalee won the county final in 2019. That year, I think, was that JD's first year up with the seniors, or he was a very young player at the time anyway. And he was just electric. Every time he got the ball, the Bursalee crowd were standing up with excitement. And you kind of felt like maybe he lost a bit of form in the last couple of years, but then he can do something like that. Puts the ball down on the hurley, just takes off. And it was Tony Kelly-esque, as I was talking to Ken Hogan yesterday. He was telling me about it as well. Just Tony Kelly-esque. He put the ball down the hurley, just sprinted past everyone in and finished it into the back of the net. And that was the big score in the game. That kind of quenched the Lura comeback. But again, this will go down in the books as a good performance from Lura for Bursalee. They didn't expect to be there in the semi-finals. They were without Brendan Maher, but they didn't need him for a finish. So they can just kind of put a line through the way this year finished off for them and move on. But for Lura, they move on into a relegation final against Temple-Derry. But I think Lura go in off the back of two good performances, beating Holy Cross, and that loss to Bursalee. It's not going to be much of a consolation. You want to win a relegation semi-final, but they'll be going into that relegation final in much better form and much better mood, I think, than Temple-Derry. Temple-Derry losing out to Roscrea, 5-22 for Roscrea, 2-15 for Temple-Derry was the full-time score there. But for Temple-Derry, it is just it's been one of those years, a bit of a typo there on Stapleton, but one of those years, like, they were missing Dara Carey, Brian Stapleton, Adrian Ryan and Padraig Hogan, and Lee McCutcheon went off after about 8 minutes in the game. I'm not sure if he came back on, but those are 4 or 5 lads that are playing every game for Temple-Derry. So that was just going to make it really difficult. Sean Ryan scored a goal from nothing. It was a ball into him. He's just able to hold it up around the edge of the square. I always mention when I'm talking about Sean Ryan that you can just hit him in any ball at all. And whether it's high, he's able to knock it down to himself. He's quicker at everyone to kind of get onto the break. If you hit it in low, he's a brilliant first touch. He's a great turn of pace. Like, I'd say between myself and Shane Brophy and the Nenagh Guardian banging the door to get Sean Ryan into that tip team. And despite Templederry's struggles this year, he's had a really good year. So he was able to hold that ball up and just hit it into the back of the net. He hit the post from a narrow angle. This is more of a speculative effort, but it was real narrow angle. I don't know how he's going to beat the goalkeeper, but he leathered it from nearly on the end line. It hit the post, the outside of the post, and went wide. But Roscrea were playing against a strong wind and plenty of different scores in the first half. There was an unreal save from Tim McCutcheon in the goals on 21 minutes. He had a really good game. That save is actually outrageous. It was number 15. Is that Lee Loughmore? I think it was, coming through on the 14-yard line, central position, leathered it high, and Tim McCutcheon had dived one way and just got the hurley up the other. It was a brilliant save. He made a couple of class saves in the game. He conceded 5 goals, but if it was another goalkeeper in there, it could have been 8 or 9. It's just a problem with Templederry this year. They're just leaving themselves really open. Thought Roscrea played really well. Alan Tynan, speaking on Clubber after, just spoke about how they kind of put in a real hard 4 or 5 weeks after the second round loss, because they know they're better with how they showed. We mentioned that Mike Harkey-Burris game before in terms of they conceded 3 goals early on and things like that. So Alan Tynan was really, really good in this game. He scored a goal in 25 minutes. It opened up for him. He low shot, buried it into the back of the net. That was after 25 minutes to make it 1-9 to 1-4. And Roscrea went in 1-12 to 1-9 in the lead. This was on Saturday in Nenagh against a strong wind. So they're up by 3 at half time. So you kind of knew it was going to be a difficult one for Templederry to kind of claw back at that stage. And then 3 minutes into the second half, Lee Loughnan with a goal. Again, good save from Tim McCutcheon, but he was there for the rebound to knock it in. Alan Tynan goal on the 41st minute. This was his second goal of the game. Intercepted hand pass kind of inside the 45, and then he just surged through in one-on-one. That made it 3-17 to 1-12. That was probably the score to kind of push it on. I have Connor Dooley in my notes written down here, the full forward. Thought he had a great game from what I was watching. I'm kind of skipping through these games, watching bits in 2x speed and seeing where the big scores are happening and what way the game is playing out. But God, he was in there full forward, winning an awful lot of ball. Thought he did really well. Young Sam Dooley came on then. He got a goal in the 53rd and the 60th minute. Sean Ryan got a second goal on 57 for Templederry, but it was all kind of over at this stage. But Sam Dooley showing a bit of ruthlessness, kind of breaking through and not settling for a point, putting it over the bar. So 5-22 to 2-15. Roscrea much the stronger of the two teams in this game. But as I mentioned, Templederry are struggling now with all those injuries. So we will have a quick look at our predictions to see how we did. So if you're a new viewer to this podcast, we do our preview podcast looking ahead to the games, giving predictions, and then we do the review podcast looking back. So I predicted Killadangan to win. That wasn't how that game went. I predicted Toom to beat JK Brackens. That's how that one went. I did predict a Loughmore win. That's how that one went there. I predicted a draw in the Nenagh game. 3 points in it, heading down the stretch. Could have been a draw. That's not how it played out. So that goes as a Thurles win. So we went 2 out of 4 there. And I think I did predictions for the relegation senior semi-finals. We did predict Bursley to win. We actually went with Templederry. I think I've had too much faith in Templederry. I've predicted them to win a lot of games this year. That's probably because big fan of Sean Ryan's play, but fair play to Roscrea. They upsetted the apple cart from my point of view, but kind of no shock either that Roscrea won that game. Really good performance from Alan Tynan, and it kind of felt like that was the true Roscrea, in terms of their short pass and their running game and things like that. So fair play to Roscrea. They'll go marching on as into the Dan Breen draw for next year as well. They will be bottom seeds, so they might get a difficult draw, but that will come to fruition next year. So we have a few more comments coming in. JD is a scorer of great goals. He's lightning. It'll be nice to see Darren McCarthy in the tip panel next year. Yeah, Darren McCarthy is underage for the under-20s next year, and it is kind of the tip minor team from 2022 that had the dramatic win over Offaly. They're coming to age now. They're in their final year under-20s next year. So it will be interesting because I've had that conversation with a few people about the likes of Sam O'Farrell, the likes of Darren McCarthy, Paddy McCormack, a couple of more of these fellas, Oisin O'Donoghue, players that were on that minor team and on the under-20s this year, when do you just, will Liam Cahill say, look, I just want these lads in here now to give a bit of freshness to the Tip senior panel? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm sure you'd have to wrestle him off Brendan Cummins, because many will feel that it could be a Tip Offaly final in the under-20 and a nice kind of a nice trilogy of sorts between the two of those groups of players. But it's hard enough to get out of Munster in the under-20s, and even that minor team with Tipperary that year, they got a last minute goals galore. They won a penalty shootout against Clare in the Munster final that year as well. So it's not going to be any walk in the park, whatever. It's not going to be that. So it'll be interesting to see what Tip do with Darren McCarthy. We also have another comment coming in. Some of my Carkey lads will have to be looked at. I was talking today, Kieran Cummins was unbelievable there for Mike Carkey Burris in midfield. Don't know what age he is now, but we all know of Mike Carkey's younger players. They had 8 players from their county under-21A winning team of 2022 starting the other day, so they have a really young team. The likes of Bill Flanagan there is still very young player. David Costigan was really, really good when he came on as well, so we mentioned him as well. So let's move on now to the Premier Intermediate. Not sure how long we've been going here. I'll just have a look myself just to see if I need to pick up the pace. We've been going 41 minutes, right, so we'll fly down through the Premier Intermediate. Cashel King Cormac's massive win. I mentioned in the preview, I said this could be a coming-of-age performance for Cashel King Cormac's. When are the relegation venues named? Some stage during the week. That's a comment coming in from Michael Horgan. Some stage during the week. I think they'll probably make the fixtures this evening if they can, so expected in the next couple of days. But Cashel King Cormac's, I mentioned in the preview podcast that this could be a coming-of-age for Cashel, and what a performance. 325 to 113. And Cashel were up by 2 points in Holy Cross at half-time against the wind. So it was a Ross Bonner goal on 26. That gave Cashel the lead. It was a very kind of back and forth first 25 minutes, but that suited Cashel because Thurles were playing with a gale force wind in that first half. Harry Fitzgibbon got the goal on 8 minutes. There was a bit of confusion there with the goal because I'm not sure, did it go through the net or something? I'm trying to think of it now, but it was a Harry Fitzgibbon goal on 8 minutes. The goal has just slipped my mind. I've watched so much hurling in the last kind of 48 hours, but this goal has slipped my mind. But Cashel went in 112 to 110 up at half time. I mentioned against the wind. But the second half then for Cashel, James Cummins got a goal. We mentioned kind of on commentary when I was doing the Boherlahan Cashel game on Tip FM that he's usually kind of a wing back, but he's kind of pushed up wing forward and took the goal really well, cut inside and hit it low past the goalkeeper. Ross Bonner then, the second goal, it was a shot saved from Devon Ryan, and Ross Bonner pulled on it into the net. Owen Connolly got a few monster frees from distance. He is really leading this Cashel team, and I'm really happy to see Owen Connolly in the form he's in. I think he could be a big part of Tipperary going forward. He's been growing and getting better and better every year. He's a real good attitude, a real good worker, and a real good leader as well, and we're seeing that with Cashel. So I can't wait for that Cashel Upperchurch game. I think that's going to be a really good game. Thurles didn't score in the last 20 minutes. They struggled in the first half with the wind, and without the wind they just couldn't get it going whatsoever. So a disappointing end for that Thurles team, but a lot of those players now will try and push on to earn places in their senior team, and a lot of them are good enough to kind of make a dent in that senior first 15 or the used 22 anyway. So we'll see how Thurles go, but I'm not going to blow my own trumpet here. I said this could be a coming-of-age performance for Cashel. They've been in this stage of the competition the last couple of years, and that was a big performance for them. But they're back into a semi-final now. They need to kind of push on. They're going to be playing the tournament favourites. It's from the offset, it was Upperchurch's favourites, Cashel as second favourites. And remember week one, or round one review, Upperchurch were after being beaten by Carrick Swan, and Cashel were after being beaten by Girton. But here they are now. They're both into the semi-finals. Upperchurch had a 3-13 to 16 point win over Aero Gannacarthy. This was on in Kilcommon in really windy, kind of dirty conditions. And it was just the goals that really killed it for Upperchurch, and they all came in the first half. Paddy Green and Aaron Ryan goals in the 7th and the 8th minute. That was Upperchurch's first scores of the game, and they were against the breeze. So that was huge, because against the breeze, a goal is worth nearly more than 3 points, especially when it's a wind like that. So Upperchurch 2 goals to Éire Óg's 2 points after 8 minutes. And then I suppose a real sucker punch was just before half time. Paul Shanahan got a goal for Upperchurch. It was a loose pass intercepted. Paul Shanahan was in 1-on-1. He finished low past Darren Mooney. Nothing he could really do in the goals. A goal chance I have here fell to Aidan Griffin straight after for Éire Óg and McCarthy. Yes, I remember that now. Darren Mooney just launched a puck out long, and it fell there nicely for Aidan Griffin. And that was straight after the Paul Shannon goal, but it was saved by Kieran Short. So at halftime it was 3-5 to 9 points. So that is 14 points to 9 in favour of Upperchurch at halftime, and that was playing into a monstrous breeze. So that was a really good first half. Those goals were kind of killer though, from an Éire Óg and a Carthy point of view. Slow start then to the third quarter. 3-6 to 12 points in favour of Upperchurch after 45 minutes. So it was down to a 3-point game. But I have here the conditions. So if you want to watch this game back, there's a hilarious moment on 56 minutes. Paul Ryan is taking a free, and the conditions are awful at this stage. Over the ball, about 45 yards out, strikes it over the bar, but as he strikes it, the hurley just goes flying out of his hands off to the side. It was, the weather was just kind of shocking at that point up in Kilcommon. But it was not much to it in the second half. Brian Fox got a straight red card in injury time. It was something happened off the ball, and the camera panned to Brian Fox, and Paul Shannon was running over to him to kind of say, "What are you after doing there?" And Brian Fox I think he shouldered him, or kind of dug the shoulder up right into the face of Paul Shannon, and it was a real kind of heavy blow. And Paul Shannon was very shook up when he kind of eventually stood up. He was in a bad way on the ground, but he was able to stand up and walk off. And it was inconsequential for a finish, 3-13 to 16 points. So what are we looking at? A 6-point win there for Upperchurch. Éire Óg and McCarthy will be disappointed with just that first half. And Upperchurch still have bits to work on. Playing with the wind, only managed the 8 points maybe in the second half. Could be something they're looking at. We have some comments coming in there. Ross Bonner going well. Jason Ford scored a point from a free from his own 21. I've seen it. I have it down in my notes. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But Paddy Green had a real fine game there in midfield or wearing number 8 anyway, for Upperchurch. So they go marching on. And I had predicted that to be a tricky game, but they made it look a little bit easier. The goals really helped them there in that game. So moving on then to the Sunday doubleheader down in Clonouty, Gertnahoe Glengool, just with a first half blitz of St Mary's. It finished up 4-18 to St Mary's, 13 points. So a big win there for Gertnahoe. What are we talking? 17-point win for Gertnahoe. It was an even first 10 minutes. It was kind of back and forth. It was maybe 2 points to 3 kind of thing. But Damien Corbett got a goal after 10 minutes, went low past the goalkeeper. Dara Maher had a goal 2 minutes later. A good run from Ronan Tehan down the middle is what I have. Then it was laid off. And then a Damien Corbett goal, again 30 seconds later. So it was like a 3-minute period, 3 goals. St Mary's full back line was extremely exposed. There was balls going in 2v2, and Damien Corbett, Dara Maher working really well and making things real difficult. But there was no protection for the St Mary's full back line at all. They did have a goal chance of their own. St Mary's Niall Hochter was a really good save from Timmy Dunn. That was on the 21st minute. And then, but those goals, 3-10 to 4 points at half time. That was playing with the breeze, but the goals were just huge there for Gertnahoe. After 45 minutes then it was 3-15 to 7. So it was pretty much game over after those 3 goals in 3 minutes. St Mary's could never really get that back. And Adrian Maher broke through for a goal there on 46. A nice bit of play there kind of popped off to him, and he made no mistake about it. So that was a massive win for Gertnahoe, 4-18 to 13 points. They go marching on now, and they will be playing Carrick Swan, who bet my own Burgess 121 to 112. The first 2 scores of the games were goals. Stephen Murray, a long-range ball down on top of Bill Flaherty, was knocked down, and Stephen Murray flicked it into the back of the net. But then an Aaron O'Halloran penalty just about a minute later. It was Dean Fitz who was fouled. It was a good save by Ronan Tucker originally. It came back out to Dean Fitz and he was pulled down, and Aaron O'Halloran led her the penalty low. So if you're watching back games, as I mentioned, there are some games very much worth watching. This one, the first half was just an absolute free fest. It was, I think it was a Callum Lanigan hitting the frees for Carrick Swan and Stephen Murray for Burgess, but there were so many frees. It was such a stop-start game, just the way it played out. And 111 to 1-7 at half-time to Carrick Swan. I think they were playing against the Breeze in the first half as well, so that was a big fill-up for them. Danny O'Hanlon came on the 47th minute, and straight away he got a score, and he set up another one, and he set up one with a scandalous flick. He's such a mercurial player, great player to watch, a real my type of player now, because he's got great hands. You can lump high ball down on top of him, but he's got such skill and ability as well, that the ball, he kind of touches it and then flicks it onto a lad who's running off his shoulder and over the bar. It was a real nice point for I can't remember who got the point, but a real nice play from Danny O'Hanlon. Stephen Murray scored 111 of Burgess's 112. Donna Maher got our other point, so it just didn't go our way at all. Callum Lanigan with 10 points, 4 from play. I think, did he say himself, Aaron O'Halloran, and if I had the team sheet out in front of me, I'd remember the other name, but they're just is the corner forward. What's his name? Is he Callum as well? Number 15. Sorry, I'm going to have to pull out the programme here. I can't think of his name. The number 15 there for Carrick Swan. He's a real fine player as well. But the three of them are just Callum Walsh. Callum Walsh, Callum Lanigan, and Aaron O'Halloran. They're all only on their second year up, and they're some of their best players. So that's a real, that's a real boost for Carrick Swan to have such good young players kind of being big parts of their team. So they've been a really good team throughout the year, and they go marching on now to the semi-finals where they'll play Gartnahoe. So both those teams will fancy that. And as I said, I can't wait for that Cashel Upper Church meeting in the semi-finals. So moving on to the relegation semi-finals now in the Premier Intermediate. Just have another comment coming in. Callum Lanigan is savage forward. Can't believe he wasn't on the under-20s this year. Yeah, he was. For everything I've seen of him in this championship, he's been really, really good. He will be a big player, no doubt, for Carrick Swan for years to come, and he's having a real fine year for them this year. So we'll go on to the semi-finals now in the the Premier Intermediate relegation semi-finals. Sean Tracy's 21 points, Silvermines 219. So Silvermines with the relegation semi-final win there, and Moyne Temple 2, he 123 to Newport's 118. So I was interested to watch back this Sean Tracy's Silvermines game. And looking at the final score, what was it, 219? So that's 25 points to 21. It was a 4-point win for the Mines for a finish, but it was far, far, far from comfortable. They were up by 6 points at half time. It was a goal from who got the goal for them? Michael Corkin. Oh yeah, he broke through. It was a really nice play. I have between Andy Hayden, Dara Tracy, and Andy Hayden hand passes it out to, was it a hand pass out to Dara Tracy? And he's on the run. It was kind of on the edge of the 65 out towards the sideline, and coming through then was Dara Tracy crossing the 45, plays it into Michael Corcoran, and he surges through the middle and buries it from close range in one-on-one. And the first thing I have written down in my notes there is Jason Ford scored a free from inside his own D. It was scandalous. Like, it was in down in Dundrum, playing in towards the kind of scoreboard end, or the entrance clubhouse end of the field in Dundrum, and he's inside the edge of his own D. And just what a striker the ball he is, like, sailed it over the bar. There was a breeze behind him, all right, a big breeze, but just, you're still on the edge of your own D, like, inside his own D. So class score from Jason Ford, who was operating at centre back. And I had watched the first half and I thought, yeah, this centre back role is really suiting him, because a lot of times with the Mines, if he's up in the half forward line, the ball can kind of bypass him. He'll have someone kind of stuck up his hole, trying to just annoy him and flick the ball away from him and things like that. But playing that kind of sweeper role, it suited him. He was able to just sweep up the ball in the sweeper role, but just able to get on a lot of ball and things like that. And he was able to score from distance as well. They did push him up the field in the second half, and for a long time it didn't work, I thought. And then in the last 5 minutes of the game, Jason Ford kind of took over, set up the goal for Conor McKelvey, got a few points, won a few frees. And it's what you'd expect from one of the best hurlers in the county. He kind of stood up when needed. But A key moment in this game, 42nd minute, full forward for Sean Tracy's Jody Ryan, straight red card for a collision with the goalkeeper. Is it Conor Murphy in goals for the Silvermines? I thought this was very harsh. It was a real heavy collision. Conor Murphy will be broke up after it, no doubt, but it felt very accidental and very kind of clumsy, more so than reckless, and kind of, I didn't think there was malice in it. Now, look, I'm only going off the angle on Clubber. If you're at the game yourself, maybe you saw it at a different angle. But from my point of view, it was a long ball coming in high into the full forward line, in over everyone's head. And the goalkeeper, Conor Murphy, was coming out maybe about 7 or 8 yards outside the box, or 7 or 8 yards off his goal line, just outside the square. And it came over everyone's head. He touched it into his hand. But as it's coming down in the head, coming down in the sky, Jody Ryan is looking up at it, and he's just as it's coming over his head and he's turning to kind of make a run, he just lays one on Conor Murphy. But it was more so he couldn't stop. I thought he just couldn't. He didn't, dig the hurley in. He didn't shoulder him into the head. I don't think it was just a real heavy collision by big Jody Ryan and Conor Murphy, who's a very young goalkeeper and a much smaller in stature than Jody Ryan. I thought it was a very harsh red card. But in fairness to Sean Tracy's, it nearly inspired them for about 10-15 minutes after that. Patrick Deegan there in midfield got some good scores. He was very good. And his point gave Tracy's the lead a minute after the red card. So Tracy's got the first, 5-6 points of the second half. They scored 3 points 2 minutes into the second half, straight off the bat. And they scored the first 5 or 6 points to draw level and then take the lead. The Mines were scoreless in the first 15 minutes of the second half. Eventually, Conor McKelvey got a point, and he was a big player for them throughout. But on 56 minutes, Sean Tracy's were winning this game by 2 points, 20 points to 115, and it was looking real treacherous there for the Silvermines lads. But Conor McKelvey got on the end of a pop pass by Jason Ford. I think it was a crossfield ball. It was from Andy Hayden. Caught out around the edge of the D by Jason Ford and popped off to Conor McKelvey, who broke through and leathered it into the back of net. Real good finish. Nothing the goalkeeper could do. That put the Mines 2 points up, and Jason Ford got another good few possessions late on to push him out to the lead. But big win for Silvermines, but a relief, I'm sure, because Sean Tracy's, they've had their injury concerns this year, but they're just such battlers. Like, they're a team you don't want to be playing in a relegation battle, because they fight for everything. Even with that harsh red card, they really pushed it right till the very end. So they're going to go in to play Newport in the relegation final. And I'd imagine they'll probably appeal that Jody Ryan red card. I'd like to know what some people think. Michael Horgan here in the comments says harsh red card. And yeah, that's the way I saw it. Now, I wasn't talking to any of the Mines lads really about it, but that's how I saw it anyway. But the Mines go marching on, 219 to 21 points. And in fairness to the Silvermines, they were in a really difficult group. Like, two of the teams in their group could meet in the final of the competition in Upperchurch and Carrick Swan. But the loss to Ballina was probably the one that really kind of it was the first game of the group stages for the Mines, and that was a costly loss, because it was always going to be an uphill battle after that. But you never really feared that they'd go down. Load of young players coming through for the Silvermines. Even that midfield partnership, I thought of Michael Corcoran and Dara Tracy, two very young players. Dara Tracy, was on the Nina CBS team this year. I think he's only in 5th year or something like that. Like, he's a very young player. And him and Michael Corcoran in midfield, that could be a Silvermines midfield for the next 10 years or so. So Silvermines go marching on, as do Mine Temple Toohey, with a 123 to 118 win over Newport. Newport goal on 18 minutes. It was by Newport's number 15. Connors, I think his name is. Sorry, Owen Connors, I think, off the top of my head. I don't have the programme in front of me. It was a shot block. He bust through. It was actually Peter O'Sullivan out in the wing who got onto a ball with no hurley, so he kind of done the thing where you wrap both your feet around the ball and do a bit of a bunny hop, ball into his hand, and he hand passed it forward to Peter O'Sullivan, who kind of got it on the turn, or sorry, to Owen Connors, who got it on the turn, came inside in the edge of the square, and was kind of, his shot was half hooked, but he was able to pull on it back into the back of the net. But Mine Temple 2, he got a goal through Martin Kelly a minute later, so this was 18 minutes into the game. And the goal a minute later from Martin Kelly made it 111 to 1-5. So it was a real sucker punch for Newport just after getting the goal. But 115 to 1-6 at half time. Newport did bring it back to a 5-point game at one stage, 116 to 111 after 43 minutes. Conor O'Mahony came onto the field then for Newport after 45. He scored a point straight away. Colin Floyd only came on for Newport, so you'd have to imagine he's injured. He's one of their kind of main forwards. Great lad to snap a ball, so I'd imagine he must have been injured. He was only able to come on. But it was down to 3 points in it with 2 minutes to go, so Newport were right there. They did hit a few bad wides around that time where if they kind of got one, it would have really pushed the momentum forward, but they found themselves 5 points down then. Paul Maher did make a big save. I think it was again Owen Connor's number 15 I've down. That was the last puck of the game, though. They were 5 points down at that stage. But a few costly wides there for Newport, but I thought they played much better in this game. They played well against Borhalahan as well. So that relegation final is going to be a real interesting one because although they're both in a relegation final, I think both Sean Tracy's and Newport can look at a lot of periods in that game and take confidence from it. Newport being 9 points down at half time, getting it back to 2 points with 3 minutes to go. So, mine Temple Toohey, I thought I didn't think they'd go down. I thought they were playing a lot better this year than they did last year, but it's back-to-back years of winning relegation semi-finals against Newport. So they'll hope to push on in 2025, but their year is over. Newport then and Sean Tracy's in that relegation final. That'll be a real interesting one because they're local rivals, bordering clubs, albeit different divisions, but really interesting to see how that game goes. Interesting to see where that's played. Probably Templederry maybe, or maybe Dala. I would imagine probably Templederry is probably the one that makes most sense there, but that's going to be a real kind of tasty affair. If you like your relegation battles, this will be a relegation battle between Sean Tracy's and Newport. So that's how things finished up in the Premier Intermediate. We have some more comments coming in. I remember seeing Conor O'Mahony hurling with Newport and Nenagh maybe 15, 16 years ago, just lording it, taking puck outs down out of the sky and flicking it over centre forward's head, shouldering lads into the next life. Yeah, what a servant for Tipperary hurling and for Newport hurling, that's for sure. Conor O'Mahony, and he came on into that centre forward position and got a score straight away. So not fair play to Conor O'Mahony. That's not going to mean much from me, but it's great to see him still going, and he will be an impact for Newport in that relegation final, no doubt. So, and Newport, similarly to the Silvermines, if you're following your North Tipperary underage results, Newport have an awful lot of good young players coming through. I've seen them in the flesh. Was it under 15 or under 17? And they've got some really nice players coming through. So I'd imagine the goal for Timmy Floyd and his management team and Newport in general is to just kind of maybe keep up at Seamus O'Reen level for a couple of years and wait for this crop of youngsters to come through, because they have some really good players, and a lot of their good players at the minute, the likes of Keane Flanagan, they're still 26 or 25, 26 years of age. So plenty more years left in the likes of those lads, and Pa Ryan and Conor Floyd and these fellas. So I'd imagine that would be the goal for Newport. Just wait for this young crop to come through, but they're going to have to face a very difficult relegation battle and taking on Sean Tracy's. We're getting to the stage of the podcast where I need to take a sip of water, but if you're a regular listener, you know that the sound of me drinking water is awful. It's like it's not quite ASMR. I don't think we're gonna do that just yet, but yeah, it's not good for the listener. So we'll stay tipping on with the dry throat for now. But we're down to the Intermediate Championship now. We're powering through, and these quarterfinals: Moneygall 224, Portrush 313 was the full-time result there. This was down in Clough-Jordan, so Moneygall go marching on. I've mentioned how they're my favourites for this competition throughout, and they do go marching on. A Paddy Forty goal after 90 seconds, but AJ Willis with a great goal after 4 minutes. Sam Madden hit an unreal sideline before it over the bar as well, but I think it went over the bar, didn't it? That's why I have that written down. I watched this game on a Saturday night on my phone late on, so I'm trying to struggle it, but class Anthony Burke goal on 7 minutes. John Sheedy catch, pass from Sam Madden, and then he just sweeps it into Anthony Burke, and he finished it into the top corner, kind of in the far end, down in Clough-Jordan. Adam Hogan Point gave Moneygall the lead on 24, so you can see it was a real close game. And then an AJ Willis second goal of the game that levelled it on 26 minutes. So at half time it was 3-5 to 111, a draw game at the half, but Moneygall really pushed on. Shawnee Kennelly got a goal a minute into the second half. Joe Fogarty robbed the goalkeeper there for that one as well. I have Sean Keneally class takes. I've mentioned this before. He's so good at just gathering a ball that comes into him. Take the water, kid, says River Power. I don't know, I should be all right. But Michael Breen, Sean Keneally, he's so good at gathering the ball. Whatever way it comes into him, he's able to hold off his man and just get the ball in his possession. And it's a real kind of simple kind of idea, but it's just really important just to get the ball in possession. I think Brian Cody might have mentioned that before, just about how quick you can get the ball into your possession. And Sean Keneally is one of the best at doing it, and himself and Joe Fogarty and the lads are really lording it at the grade. And that's why they've been my favourites throughout. Michael Breen got a second yellow and a subsequent red card for Portrush on the 47th minute. They were down by 6 at the time, so it was always going to make it very difficult for Port then to come back from that. So it finished 2-24 to 3-13, so an 8-point win there for Moneygall. They go marching on. Joining them in the semi-finals is Ballingarry. Very entertaining game, this one in Cashel. Ballingarry 4-15, Knockavilla Doneski Kickham's 3-17. So it was Owen Horgan got the only goal of the first half. There were 6 goals in the second half. So the Knockavilla goalkeeper Owen Horgan buried a penalty on 5 minutes. 1-10 to 10 points at half time. We had a James Burns goal on 33 minutes after a nice run from Dylan Walsh. Dylan Walsh, surely going to be inside Newport versus Sean Tracy's. Could be in Nenagh with a double header, says Michael Horgan. Yeah, that remains to be seen. We'll see where that one goes. But Dylan Walsh has been unbelievable with Ballingarry, and he's to be, let's say, a tip senior hurler. If you're playing in the intermediate grade, you really need to be standing out. I feel a little bit more in games, and he's dominating nearly every game he's playing. I think he scored 8 or 9 in the game, Dylan Walsh, but he's looking really, really good. And even aside from the 1-8 he's set up an awful lot of scores. He set up a couple of the goals as well. But Knockavilla, Davy Butler got a goal 2 minutes later. So after that James Byrne goal, Knockavilla answered back with a goal 2 minutes later. It was a mistake from the goalkeeper. It was kind of a half-hit shot in at the goalkeeper's kind of head height. Put the hand to it, slipped in behind him. As a fellow goalkeeper, you do really hate to see it, but that's just kind of how it goes. And it went into the back of the net behind him. Davy Butler then got another goal on 46 minutes. It was from outside the 21, but it was a real low shot right into the corner, a great strike. That made it 3-14 to 1-12. Then on 47, we've a Dylan Walsh, brilliant solo goal. The next score was another Ballingarry goal. So they're just going goal for goal here in the second half. That was a Dylan Walsh goal on 47 minutes. That was a minute after the Davy Butler goal. So they were just trading goals back and forth. And the next score of the game, it did take 5 minutes, but it was a Ballingarry goal on 52 from Paddy Burns. And that made it 3-14 to 3-12 in favour of Knockavilla Kickham's on 52 minutes. Knockavilla were up by 3 on 58 minutes, but then Paddy Burns levels it with a goal on 58 minutes, and Ballingarry see it through then with a couple of points. Knockavilla had to tap a free over the bar late on, and they didn't get another chance. They could have dropped it in and around the house. They were down by 2 points. They went and just popped it over the bar, but they didn't get the chance to level it. So 4-15 to 3-17, massive win for Ballingarry. The South champions go marching on in a very entertaining game. And what was also a very entertaining game was Shannon Rovers. And I hold my hand up. I said on the preview podcast that I said Shannon Rovers, I think I predicted them to lose all their group games, and they won all their group games. This is the first game I predicted Shannon Rovers to win, and they lost. So apologies to the people of Shannon Rovers. But this one was a really entertaining game. Shannon Rovers looked dead and buried in this game. And as I was watching it back today, knowing the result, I think, if I have it here, they were down by 5 points over 2 minutes into injury time. And I was like, am I imagining that this went to extra time, or what's the story here? But we'll talk about how that game finished. But it was a Brendan Murphy goal for Kappa White on the 22nd minute. That made it 1-9 to 6 points. Half-time score in this game was on in Newport, 112 to 8 points at the half. But yeah, 120 to 18 points after 62 minutes. The Kappa White goalkeeper made a good save. It was recycled out and put over the bar by John O'Mara. Then Austin Tierney gets a quick point. So then it's back to a 3-point game. And it's this man, Conall Moran, every game for Shannon Rovers this year, he's dominating. And his goal on the 65th minute levelled it, 1:15 for him in normal time. Conall Moran, 1:15 in the game in normal time out of the 120. So it was 120 apiece heading into extra time. And Rovers were down by 9 at one point in this game, down by 9 points. And the last minute goal by Conall Moran, one of his 1:15 in the game, levelled it up. Grode Lennon then with a goal for Cap White just before half-time and injury time. That was a top corner job in the roadside end up in Newport, and that put Kappa up by 1, and they saw it out for a finish 227 to 125. So 5-point win for Kappa White. Fair play to them. They had a real slow start to the year. Some disappointing results, but they go marching on to the semi-finals, and that's all that matters at this stage of the year. So fair play to Kappa White, and they'll be joined in the semi-finals by their fellow West men. That is Golden Kilfeacle, last year's beaten finalists, go marching on. 323 to Bursacane's 21 points was the final score in Bursley in this one. Jack Bergen goal on 15 minutes. It was a poor touch from the goalkeeper. It was a kind of a shot that kind of went to kind of touch it like this over his head, and it just skirted in behind him. It just happens again. You do hate to see it, but that made it 1-5 to 8 points. And about 2-3 minutes later, Sam Hall, the corner forward for Golden, just kind of backtracking on the end line, edge of the square, keeps it in play, and the defenders behind him, and they're both kind of falling to the ground, and he just one hand swipes it into the back of the net from close range. So that was a big kind of couple of minutes there for Golden, and they're up to 11 to 14 points at half time. So that was what, a 3-point lead at the half. Big score of the game then. Golden kind of started the second half much better, kind of went 6 points into the lead. Then a long puck out breaks through to Jack Leamy. He's in one-on-one, and a great finish past the goalkeeper made it 3-17 to 17 points, and effectively kind of game over at that stage. They traded points till the end of the game. So 323 to 21 points. Golden Kilfeacle, big win for them, because I expected this to be kind of I think I predicted this to be a draw because I couldn't really call it, but Golden go marching on. Jack Leamy seems to be in really good form as well for Golden. So we'll finish it off then in the relegation semi-finals in the intermediate. Skeenarinky saving themselves 116 to 15-point win over Upper Church Drumban second team, and Arvale Rovers beating Ballybacon Grange 19 points to 15. So Upper Church Drumban against Ballybacon Grange. Ballybacon, they usually find a way in these relegation battles, so you'd nearly be leaning them to beat Upper Church's second team. But let's see how that goes in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be the relegation match up there. So we can run down through the rest of our predictions now. We've a couple more comments coming in, I think. Ball up all kind of ways. He was savage, taking the ball up while sliding over the grass. Great first touch. That's just River Power. River Power almost co-hosting this podcast, himself and Michael Horgan here, keeping the comment section lively. So fair play to the lads. But we'll go down through our predictions. I did predict Cashel Kincormac to beat Thurles. That one happened. I predicted Aerogue and Upper Church to be a draw. Upper Church won that game. I did predict Gartnahoe to win, and I did predict my own Burgess to win. We couldn't get the job done, unfortunately, there. So Carrick Swan go marching on then. And then in the semi-finals, I did predict Silvermines to win. I did predict Moyne Temple Toohey to win there as well. So let's see our intermediate predictions. We did predict Moneygall to win. We did predict Ballingarry to win. We did predict Shannon Rovers. Again, apologies to the people of Shannon Rovers. And we predicted a draw in the Bursacane Golden game. Golden came out in flying colours there in that one. And then the relegation semi-finals, we did predict Skeenarinky, and we did predict Arvale Rovers. That's pretty good going there for our predictions this week. So yeah, that nearly sums up all we got time. Well, not all we got time for, like there's no real time constraints. I'm used to just saying that on the radio, but that's nearly all we got time. I did mention ticket prices at the start. So it's one of those things that annoys me, ticket prices. Like a lot of the games were 15 euro for single games. Like 15 euro for a double header I think is fair enough, but 15 euro for a once-off game, I can't get behind it. Just as well, because like to actually, if you wanted to buy the game on Clubber, if you didn't have the match pass, I think it's $12.99. So it's cheaper to sit at home and not go to the game than it is to watch the game and go and support the thing that way. I don't know. I think a tenner is more than enough for any club game. And yeah, it's something that I hate to see, because everything is so expensive these days. It's GAA, volunteer organisation, all this stuff, and I think charging 15 quid for one game is just too much, in my opinion. I know the match passes are fairly good value, but sometimes the match passes can look good value if one match is 15 quid, but one match shouldn't be 15 quid, in my opinion. I know the county board, we always hear stories, they're stuck for money, or not stuck for money, but they need to be getting as much money in with how expensive everything is. But I can't get behind €15 for a single game whatsoever. So look, I don't know if they're going to change that now. Usually when these ticket prices or anything, when the price of anything goes up, it's a long time before it goes back down. But yeah, I just think it's asking a lot. And the fact that you can stream the game for cheaper and you can go to watch it, and that's not a knock on Clubber. I'd say I probably watch more Clubber than anyone, and they've been a great service and a great addition to my viewing of the county championships. I'm sure everyone will agree with that. But just €15 to go to one game is too much. Tenner, more than enough, especially when it comes to the knockout stages. So that's pretty much the last point. A few last comments coming through. Great pod. Fair play. Thanks for that, River Power. Michael Horgan, do you think the Tip semi-finals will be on TV? I would imagine that Loughmore Thurles game, it's a very kind of marketable game for a national audience. So I could see that being on TV. Although I think it might have been on TV last year. And last year's semi-final between the two teams was a fairly dour affair. It was kind of a Thurles Sarsfields domination. I can't remember the full-time score, but it was very one-sided. I think Loughmore might have got a consolation goal late on, but Thurles were way ahead in that game as well. So I'd imagine that game could be on TV. Where do you stand on the draws? Should you be doing the draw on the radio after the games on a Sunday? I'd be all for it anyway, that's for sure. But look, the county CCC and getting everyone together and things like that, it obviously just suits them to do it better on a Monday. So we did have it live on extra time there with Ronan Quirk earlier on. Jonathan Cullen was on the show after the draw was done. But yeah, it's a fair point. We'd all like to see maybe a live stream of sorts of the draws and things like that, to kind of, and doing it in Thurles straight after would kind of generate a bit of interest as well. But at the end of the day, the draws are made now and the interest is very much there. Really looking forward to it. So that's all for this week's podcast. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. If you're listening back, this is probably our longest podcast ever because I've been replying to comments and all that. But let me know if you've enjoyed the live streaming point of view. As far as I'm aware, the video of the live stream will go up after, so you might be watching this back. In terms of a next podcast, I'll probably do a preview podcast for the semi-finals. It will either be next Tuesday or it'll be next Friday. So probably next Tuesday next week, let's say. I'm going off to Old Trafford for Man United against FC20 next Wednesday. So I'll be over there kind of Wednesday and Thursday, so we won't be doing a podcast then. So probably Tuesday night maybe. We'll see where it goes. So until then, yeah, hope you've enjoyed the podcast. The usual: like, share, follow, subscribe to the channel. Up to 91 subscribers, I think, now. So can we get to 100 before the county final? Let's see, can we do that? So yeah, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, retweet this on Twitter if you can when I put up the link and things like that as well. Just gets the name out and gets the whole thing going. So I'm not even sure how to end this this live stream, so I'm going to try do that. I will end the audio recording. So if you're listening on Spotify, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. Cheers for tuning in. And now, if you're still here on YouTube, it is you're looking at me struggling to turn off this live stream. I've now lost the application. I've pressed the wrong button there. Right, I'm going to stop the stream now.